Hello everyone and welcome to today's session on remote data access, formerly known as Sage Drive. Today we're going to learn about remote data access, how it works and how to set it up. So we're not going to be doing any troubleshooting today, we're just focusing on the introduction to the feature. So we're kind of introducing this topic today as terms of, we're getting into that part of the year where, we might have some bad weather and you might need to work from home or a separate location to your main location. So we're going to talk about remote data access today. My name is Abby and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon. We also have Michael and Matt on hand to answer your questions throughout the session. So I'm sure there will be plenty, so do please bear with us on that front. So before we start the session, just a little bit of housekeeping. So what you'll see is be placed on mute automatically. If you want to ask any questions, then you can use the questions panel down the right hand side. And it looks like that icon with the speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. You can send your questions across to myself, Matt or Michael to be able to answer those for you. We do also have a handout for today. You can download this by clicking on the button that looks like a little document with the folded corner. And I would recommend downloading this today as it does have some helpful links to our help centre. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering on today's session. So we're going to start with what is remote data access and what are the requirements. So it's called remote data access. Sometimes we shorten it to RDA. So you might hear me refer to that as RDA today. So what are the RDA requirements? Things to consider, different scenarios that you might find yourself in, how to set up remote data access, and we've got some video demonstration for you today. And then we've got some frequently asked questions as well. And then towards the end, we'll summarise the session and we'll talk about upcoming webinars. Now, but before we do get into the introduction of remote data access, I just want to, a bit like when we do the bank feed series, I just want to know if anyone on the session is currently using remote data access. So is it yes? Is it no? I choose not to, or no, I don't know what it is. So you pop your answers across for me. We usually wait until we get around 70%. So you can see the answers, are coming in nice and quickly now. So we'll just give it a little bit longer. Once we get around 70%, I will then share those results with you as well, so you can see the outcome. Like I say, there's no right or wrong answer today. We're just gaining insight on who's currently utilising this feature in their Sage 50 account software already. Okay, so we've got around 80% there, so I'm going to close that poll and I'll share the results with you as well. So as you can see on today's poll, 17% of you are currently using remote data access, and it might be that you're joining today to just gain better insight on how it actually works and how to utilise it to the best of your ability. 23% of you are choosing not to use remote data access. It might be that you're not entirely familiar with the process and how it works, and then 60% of you don't know what it is. But like I say, hopefully towards the end of the session, we'll have changed your mind on that one. Okay, so I'll hide that poll and we'll get stuck into it. So I'm going to start with connected services. So to use any of the apps and add-ons in the software, you must have a Sage account linked to your company. So that's going to be the likes of if you're using Satago, Invoice Finance, Invoice Payments, Bank Feeds, Remote Data Access, and lastly, MySage, which is where you get access to your MySage invoices for your products. Now today, we're going to focus on remote data access. If you do wish to find out more about apps and add-ons, the navigation bar down the left-hand side of your software, it's usually the one just under the home tab, you will see the apps and add-ons section for that, where you can find out more information and what different add-ons you can get. Now there is often a lot of confusion between your Sage account and when you use your user logon name. So your Sage account window is the one on the left. So this is where you enter an email and password combination. You would be asked for this either when you're logging into MySage for your invoices, or when you're using additional apps and add-ons. So you may be asked to authenticate or re-authenticate. So some of you might be familiar with this window on the left. Whereas the logon window on the right is the window you see when you log in to access your company in Sage 50 accounts. So you might be logging in as manager, or you might be assigned your own username to log in and that's when you do your day-to-day processing. So on the left is when you need to re-authenticate. So you tend to see this window when in your Sage 50 accounts product, when you need to re-authenticate any of your connected services. And that could be any time up to 6 months. And then the one on the right is what you're going to see every time you log into the software. You'll pop in a username and password combination. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go into what is remote data access. So formerly known as Sage Drive, it was introduced in version 21 and is now known as Remote Data Access, RDA for short. This feature enables you to share your data securely via the cloud, giving you and other users freedom to work anywhere with an internet connection, and you must have a subscription-based license as well. And each user must have Sage 50 accounts installed on their computer. So it is available on version 27 and above. All variants will have access, so whether you're on Essentials, Standard or Professional, you will be able to use this feature. And as long as you are on a subscription-based license, you will be able to use this option as well. Now, one key point I want to make very clear, and I probably will reiterate this throughout the session as well, is that RDA does not permanently store your data, and you must still take regular backups. So all it does is it will send your data up to the cloud, and that's just so other users have the ability to download your data, but it does not store a permanent copy in the cloud. So you must be taking regular backups. So I just want to make that very important, and I will recap that at the end of the session as well. Okay, so remote data access requirements. So like I say, you've got to be on version 27 and above. It needs to be the Sage 50 account software needs to be installed locally on each machine. All users must be on the same version and build. If you're not sure what build you're on, you can go to Help in your Sage software, and then into About, and then on the left-hand side at the top under Program Details, it will tell you your version number, and that needs to reflect the same on all machines. If it's a new install, you will need obviously your license information, so everyone's on the same license. All computers must meet the system requirements. And also as well, you must meet the minimum internet speeds. For the best results, we do recommend that you use a wired connection where possible. Now, we know that's not always possible. So what we do is the minimum internet speeds is 4 Mbps download and 2 Mbps upload. And also as well, it is a requirement that each user has their own Sage account, and they will create their own Sage account themselves. So you don't need to create that for each user. If you've got the handout downloaded, I have provided links to the RDA requirements. That does include the speed test on that article, but I have just included the speed test if that's something that you just need to check individually. It might be worth bookmarking for if you need to use it in the future. So just a reminder, you do need to make sure that you are getting 4 Mbps download and 2 Mbps upload. Okay, so just a little bit more to consider before you decide whether you're going to use remote data access. So a couple of things to consider. So you want to be checking the size of your data. So you can do this by going to Help and then into About, and then you're going to look under the Data Information section. So you want to be checking the number of splits that you have and what splits are, because you know we get this question. So splits are the number of transactions that you have in the transactions module. We recommend that you have fewer than 250,000 splits. But you also want to be checking the number of invoices, orders, and other records as well. There is a link on the handout to an article which gives you the recommended amount. But also this is not just specific to remote data access, but this is just a general rule of thumb to keep your data running smoothly and efficiently as possible. Make sure you are checking those internet speeds at each individual site. You are only as strong as your weakest connection. Again, you need to be making sure that you're taking regular backups of your data, like I say, because it doesn't store it permanently in the cloud. And lastly, majority of your data will sync, but there are a few things that don't, so such as archives, memo attachments, and just standard layouts, as everyone will have a copy of those as standard. However, if you have renamed a customized layout or report that is the same as a standard default, so that's such as like the goods delivery note, then it will not sync and it will have to be shared manually. Oh, accidentally skipped a couple of slides there. So if you do require any more information on what we have just discussed on this section, again, I have included links on this slide as well. So you've got your data limits and then you've got which files sync over remote data access if you are a little unsure. Okay, now we'll go to the next slide. So we'll look at manual data sharing. So this is before you start to use remote data access. This is what it might look like. So it might be, so prior using remote data access, you may have to share your data with your accountant, and it may look a little bit like this. So we've got Joe in the top left-hand corner. He would process invoices. He would then take a backup and share this with his accountant, Sarah. Sarah would then restore that backup into her own software and process the relevant adjustments. Now, whilst all of this is going on, Joe would not be able to process, as when he gets the backup from Sarah, it will overwrite his current data. And you can see it just like it goes round as a cycle. Using remote data access allows you to work concurrently without that back and forth of one processing, then the other. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at some common scenarios. So this is scenario 1. So this is the same scenario as the manual data sharing. Joe is in the office and his accountant is external in her own office, and they're using remote data access. Joe can continue to process those invoices whilst his accountant is adding those adjustments. When you have a one user license, for example, Joe is the only user, as long as you set up your accountant with the right user type, they do not count towards your users logged in. So it will still allow Joe to be logged in and then the accountant user, Sarah, to be logged in at the same time. we've now got scenario 2. So this is Joe, still has a 1-user license. He has a computer in the office and a laptop or computer at home. So he has 2 devices. Instead of taking it back up in the office, carrying that USB home, then restoring it into the computer at home, he would still, obviously, you see, he would have Sage installed on a second machine. But if he's using remote data access, all he has to do is log in to his data, and everything he has processed in the office will then synchronize to his home computer. Scenario 3. So scenario 3, we've got now 3 users. So you might have one person in the office. So again, we've got Joe in the office. We've got one person at home. So I've got Stephen at home. And then another in a different location. So again, we've got Sarah, the accountant, has come back in. So each person in this situation is classed as a remote site. But big processes, such as year-end and clear audit trail, can be done in any location as long as you are on version 28 and above. So version 27, you used to have a main site and then you would have remote sites, and all big processes would have to be done at the main site. Whereas on version 28 and above, each site is classed as equal, so big processes can be done from any site. If you only have a 1-user license at the moment, but you would like more people working concurrently, then you can contact our support team to increase your user licenses on your account. Okay, so we'll go through the last scenario before we move on to some demonstration. So scenario 4 is where we have a server involved. So now you have Joe and Marie in the office, but they are networked by a server. Although they are 2 separate users using their own machines, but because they're working from the same data location on the server with remote data access set up, they are classed as one site. If you have a server set up, then we would recommend to set up remote data access from that location first. You would then only reply to remote data access to Joe and Marie's user records if they had another machine at a different location and needed to connect remotely. Now this is changing come February when two-factor authentication is becoming mandatory, and each user will need to have an email address associated with each user coming from February. But again, I would recommend getting registered for our two-factor authentication session where we'll go into more detail about that. So like I say, so you can have remote data access and a server set up at the same time. We would not recommend replacing a server with remote data access. Have a server connection where possible, but you can have both set up at the same time for if you have people working in the office, and then you might have people working from different sites, different locations, such as Stephen and Sarah. Okay, so let's have a look at the demonstration on how to set up this process. So we're going to take a look at 3 videos. We're going to set up remote data access. We're going to add additional users. And then we're going to show you how to connect to the data remotely as if you are those additional users as well. Just a reminder as well, don't forget you do receive a link to the recording in your follow-up email. So if you do need to re-watch those videos, they are going to be available for you to revisit as well. Okay, so first we're going to set up remote data access from Joe's location. So let's take a look at the video demonstration of what that looks like. Again, if you do have any questions around remote data access or the process of setting up, please don't hesitate to pop those through to us.
Once you've checked the system requirements and internet speeds of all required machines, you can set up remote data access. Log in as manager and check your software version by going to Help, then About. The version number is listed in the Program Details area, and all users must have the same version installed. Next, you should take a backup. To do this, open the File menu and click Backup. Select the files that you want to back up, amend the file name and choose the location by clicking Browse. To continue, click OK. A check data prompt will appear. We recommend that you do this every time. If any errors are reported, these must be fixed before you continue. To continue with the remote data access setup, you must link a Sage account to the company. To do this, navigate to Settings, User Management, and click Users. Manager will be highlighted by default, then click Edit. If remote data access has been set up in the past, Allow remote data access checkbox will be available to select. If not, click Get Started Now with your Sage account. To find out more, click here. To continue with the setup, click Continue. Enter the name of the person who is going to be the data owner, preferably someone in a permanent position within the company. Additional information is available here. Once completed, click to confirm you are the right person. Next, check your company details. All mandatory information is marked with an asterisk. To continue, click here. Next, log into your Sage account. If you already have a Sage login, enter the details here and click Login. If you don't have one, create a new account using the link provided. Enter the email address you want to be assigned to the manager user, the name of the person you have assigned the data owner, and a password. Once you are happy with the information entered, click Sign Up. You'll receive a 6-digit code to your email. You can enter this here. Your Sage account is now connected. To close this message, click here. The Remote Data Access checkbox is now available to select. To complete the setup, select Allow the Remote Data Access checkbox and click Continue. You're then prompted to create an encryption passphrase. This is an extra layer of security, and all remote users will need this information when attempting to connect to your data. The passphrase must include a capital letter, a lowercase letter, and must be a minimum of 15 characters. To view the passcode at any time, follow the steps provided here. To complete the process and upload your data to the cloud, click Save. How long this will take will depend on the size of your data and internet speed. Once complete, Remote Data Access appears on your status bar.
Okay, so we have now linked a Sage account to the company and then uploaded the data. Now remote data access is set up. Any changes Joe makes from his Sage software will sync to the cloud, and any changes made by other users once set up will now reflect on Joe's machine. So next, we're going to demonstrate how to give remote data access to Louise's user record.
In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to add remote data access users. To get started, log in as manager. From the settings menu, choose User Management, then click Users. You can add remote data access to an existing user, or if the user does not appear on your list, you can set up a new one. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll edit an existing user. Highlight the relevant one on the list and click Edit. Navigate to Remote Data Access and select the checkbox to allow remote data access. Enter the required details for your user. Please note, a unique email address must be entered for each user. To move on to the next step, click Continue. When the summary page appears, check the information is correct, then click Save. An email is automatically sent to the email address entered. This contains a step-by-step guide on how to connect your Sage 50 accounts data remotely. You must provide all remote data access users with the passphrase that you created when you set up remote data access. For security purposes, you must send this separately.
Okay, so you can see how quick and easy it was to add that remote data access to Louise's record. Now as Louise, we want to download that company to our machine. So let's take a look at the last video demonstration on how to download the company from remote data access.
We'll now demonstrate how to connect to Sage 50 accounts using remote data access. Before attempting to connect to your data remotely, ensure you have the relevant information to hand. You'll need your user logon name and password, the email address that has been applied to your user record, and the encryption passphrase. To connect remotely, open Sage 50 accounts and then click Add Company. Next, you'll see 4 setup options. Click Download. If you wish to change the location your data is saved to, click Change and follow the on-screen steps. To move on to the next step, click Continue. You are then presented with a set of instructions explaining the next steps. Click OK and log into your Sage account. If you don't have one, simply click to create an account and follow the prompts. Once logged in, you'll see the companies associated with your Sage account with more information about each one, such as the version of the data, who the data owner is, and if required, use the icon to view the company ID, which you can cross-reference with other users to check that it is the right version to download. Select the company you'd like to connect to, then click Next. Enter the encryption passphrase and click Continue. Finally, click Download. A progress bar appears while a copy of your Sage account's data downloads to your computer. Once complete, you'll be prompted to log in to Sage accounts using your logon name and password. Once you are logged in, your remote data access status is confirmed in the status bar along the bottom. Sage 50 accounts is now connected using remote data access, and you can now start the process as usual.
Okay, so Once that company is downloaded, Louise can log in and start a process and make any changes straight away. And it will then sync those changes back up to the cloud and then reflect on Joe's machine in real time. So that is remote data access broken down into 3 steps: upload, add access, and connecting remotely. If you wish, like I say, if you wish to rewatch the videos we have shown you today, again, you are going to receive a link to the recording in your follow-up email. Okay, just a reminder, do pop your questions across to us so then we can pick these up for you. We did have a question about not doing a backup or forgetting a backup. I just want to remind people that there is a scheduled backup option available. I'm just going to quickly pop to my software. And just to remind you, if you go to File, now you do have to be logged in as manager for this, but we do have a scheduled backup option. Now the scheduled backup option, if I click and open this, now this is turned on by default. And what this will do is it will run, it could be run once a day or it'll run more than once, and you could it'll do a backup however often you choose to do it. If you choose to run it once a day, you can choose to run it at a certain time. Now, if you finish, it is default at 5 p.m. If you choose, if you finish work before 5 p.m., then you might want to change this to earlier, because the machine has to be on for the scheduled backup to take place. I know you can still be taking your manual backups, when you're exiting the software, you can do your manual backup that way, but this will also do a backup in the background, as long as your computer or laptop is turned on. So just a reminder that that option does exist. If you want more information, we do have a full session on backing up your data on our recordings page as well. Now, like I say, just a reminder, you do need to be logged in as manager to change any of these settings, but this will apply for each user, for each machine as well. So you've got multiple sites, it will be doing a backup on each computer. Just make sure you go in and make sure that it's set to the right time that your device is going to be turned on. Okay, so I'm going to pop back to my slides. Just while we wait for any further questions to come through. Okay, so the first question is, again, will the data be stored in the cloud? So only temporarily, so it can sync between different locations. You must remember to take regular backups of your data, and I can't stress that enough as well, because we don't store copies of your data. So you are responsible to be taking those regular backups. So questions come there from Rachel. Does the cloud back up to the server if that is where it is currently being stored? And if so, can that be scheduled automatically? So if you're referring of your data going up to this cloud when using remote data access, it doesn't store it. We don't have a copy of your data. We don't store it anywhere. Again, it just goes up there so then it can sync between locations. So if you have data corruption, you need to ring us, or your machine's broke, you need a copy of your data, you need a backup. We don't store those. So you need to be making sure that you've got a process in place to be backing up your data, storing those backups somewhere safe. Is it an external hard drive? Is it have you got your own server to store your backups on? So that's something you really need to be thinking of. Can I use this on a tablet? So no, you must have a copy of the Sage 50 account software installed on a compatible machine. And then the last question on my frequently asked questions is, can I use RDA to replace my server? So as I mentioned earlier, we recommend to use a server connection where possible, as this will be quicker. You can still use remote data access alongside the server for those in other locations. Now, I've just had a question that come through there from Alex. does RDA slow Sage down? So RDA doesn't necessarily slow Sage down, it's the amount of data that you have on the software. So that's why we've got those data, those data limits. Your machine is, your Sage software isn't going to stop working at 250,000 splits. But the more information you have on there, and the more information it's got to filter through, search through, and things like that. So keeping your data limits low, running a clear audit trail process to keep your data tidy, the quicker your software is going to work. Another question's just come through there from Cheryl. Would I need to pay for a subscription to install Sage 50 accounts onto my iMac? So Sage 50 accounts is not compatible with Mac. It can only work on a Windows operating system. So you would need a Windows operating system working, up and running for you to be able to use Sage 50 accounts. Again, keep your questions coming. Like I say, we've still got Michael and Matt on there on hand. What I'll do now is I'll just summarize what we've talked about so far. So to summarize, it enables you to access your data from any location, as long as you've got an internet connection and the software installed locally on each PC, which I failed to mention before, which will need to be on Windows operating system. All variants have access, so that's essential, standard and professional. It's included in your subscription. Each user must have a unique email address assigned to their user profile, so there's no longer sharing logons. You will need to have, each user will need to have their own unique username and their own unique email address assigned to their username as well. I have included some helpful links down the right hand side. So just generic help center, so sage.co.uk/help. Just a reminder, you are going to receive a link to the recording in your follow-up email. I have also included a link for the Remote Data Access Hub, so that's going to have FAQs, links on how to set it up. If you need to reset Remote Data Access or disconnect, it will also have steps and guides on there as well. And just a reminder, I've just provided a guide as well, all about backing up your data. Really quite a good question has just come through there from Alison. If you set up remote data access on a laptop as well as an office computer, do you need to have a separate email address for this? So no. So you'd set up remote data access. Say you've got a machine in the office. You will say we'll use Alison's name as a username. So Alison creates a username. You assign an email address to that user. When you go to your laptop at home, you go to download your company. You'll log in with your email address or your Sage account that you created. It will download the company. You can select the company from the list. And then once you come to log in, you will just pop in your Alison username and password combination, and you'll just log in with the same user details. Hope that's a little bit clearer for you. Okay, so again, if you have any more questions, do keep them coming, and we'll be around for a little bit longer. We're going to go through some upcoming webinars as well. Just before we do move on, I just want to launch another poll on your screen there. And now you've attended today's session, are you more likely to use remote data access? Yes, no, still unsure. Don't worry if you're still unsure. Pop it in, let us know what your concerns are. We might be able to point you in the right direction. Don't worry if it isn't a yes. It doesn't work for everybody. But like I say, you can try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, that's absolutely fine. But it might be worth trying this option. It just depends as well, totally on your internet speeds. You're only as strong as your weakest connection. So if someone's internet's a bit spotty, is that going to work for your business? So you can see the votes are coming in nice and quickly now. So we'll just get a little bit longer just to pop your votes in. Again, this is still not a right or wrong answer. It's just a little insight for us to understand where you are towards the end of the session. Okay, so we've got around 70%. So I'll do is I'll close that poll down. Don't worry if you haven't voted. And I'll just share those results with you as well. So we can see 67% of you have said yes, you are more likely to use remote data access now you've attended this session. 5% have said no, and 29% of you are still unsure. Okay, so I'll close that poll down. And what we'll do is we'll go through some upcoming topics that we've got going on over the next couple of weeks. So key topics, we've got the bank feed series. So that's another connected service that you get with your Sage 50 account subscription. So it's definitely worth, if you want to speed up your bank reconciliation process, then we do have bank feed series coming up. I think it's next week or this week. I think it's this week. And that's the sessions that we're doing. So that's split up into 3 parts as well. We're also doing what's new in version 31. So we've got various dates for that. Then we've got other sessions. So we've got corrections for invoices and orders, stock corrections, bank reconciliation corrections, global changes, festive messaging, and foreign trader as well. If you do want to look at any other webinars that we are covering over the next couple of weeks towards the festive Christmas period, then you can visit sage.co.uk/webinar. So get on there and check what we've got coming up for the rest of this year. Okay, so just having a look to see if we've got any questions outstanding. So a good question that did come through from Liz, I know Matt picked this one up, is does my office computer need to be on to be able to use remote data access? This used to be the case when you're on version 27 and below. You did need to have the main site switched on to be able to use that. To be able to use it in other locations, but now version 28 and above, that's no longer the case, and there's no dependent machine that needs to be switched on to be able to process. Okay, so all questions have been answered so far. I'll give it another minute or so if you do have any last minute questions to get through. So that does bring us to the end of today's session. If you've got what you need today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let us know any feedback regarding today's session. What did you like? What didn't you like? What could we do better? We always love to read those comments, and we always like to make improvements where we can. Okay, so just while the last couple of questions are being picked up, what I'll do is I'll wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to Michael and Matt, who's been on hand today to answer your questions. And thank you to you all for your participation today. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.